Hello. I read the chapter about Down syndrome in Far From the Tree. What is Down syndrome and what causes it? It's a physical and mental developmental disorder that there's an extra copy of chromosome 21. I had encountered someone with Down syndrome in my classes when I was in the 8th grade. This would have been in 1992 and was at the start of integrating kids with Down syndrome into the public school system. I was already familiar with the condition at that time because my mother worked with kids with disability as well as adults in Wheat Ridge Regional Center in Denver, Colorado. I didn't know. I have a half brother also that has a rare chromosomal disorder called 4p minus syndrome. I didn't know him growing up as he was adopted by a foster care family when he was 3 years old. This was long before I was born. My mom did not have the resources nor the money to give him the care that he needed at the time, and the challenges she faced were very similar to those who had babies with Down syndrome. This was a story for so many mothers through the 70s and into the early 80s, before things began to change. Emily Pearl Kingsley aptly describes raising a child with a disability through her fable, Welcome to Holland. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a trip to Italy. All the necessary preparations that are made that take time, dedication, and a fair amount of learning. The day finally arrives, you pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, your plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, Welcome to Holland. All your dreams and fantasies are suddenly thrown into an unknown world that you were not prepared for, but it isn't altogether unpleasant. The chapter in the book describes stories of specific Down syndrome parents who faced the challenges of raising a child with Down syndrome and had found resources lacking. So they instead made a choice to persevere that eventually led to the foundations of the largest network of Down syndrome and disability support institutions today. They found love and acceptance. The parents discovered the heartache of dire predictions and prejudice. They found personal growth. They found love and acceptance. The chapter raises very serious, very controversial issues in each of the stories. That is, to abort or not to abort, and to cure or not to cure. Before I dive into the characters and their stories, what kind of roadblocks and other challenges do you think parents faced before resources were available? Here's what Jason Kingsley's parents did. Despite the horrible predictions that the doctors exclaimed, such as this mongoloid would never learn to speak, think, walk, or talk, Jason Kingsley's parents, Emily and George, set out to nurture versus nature, which was a common mindset of the 1970s. Through a social worker, they discovered an experimental program called Early Intervention. They were encouraged to start with every possible form of stimulation for Jason, and he blossomed under the care and attention. Emily happened to work as a writer for Sesame Street, and as far as she was concerned, she had beaten Down syndrome. She was able to convince the producers to include children with disabilities in their programming. Jason found stardom and became the first Down syndrome celebrity. He wrote a book in collaboration with a friend called Count Us In, and a quote from the book sums up the hope and heroism he instilled in others with Down syndrome. Give a baby with a disability a chance to grow a full life, to experience a full glass instead of a half-empty glass. Emily was given the option of testing to be able to make the choice to have Jason or not. She chose not to have the test. Later on, she would state that, quote, I would have terminated, and I would have missed out on what has not only been the most difficult, but also the most enriching experience of my life, unquote. You've had a chance to see some of the images in the slide presentation. What are the unique traits of Down syndrome and that are ubiquitous? The first person to describe Down syndrome was John Langdon Down in 1866. He referred to his subjects as, quote, mongoloids or mongoloid idiots, unquote, meaning their unique facial features with downward slanting eyes resembled people from Mongolia. An awful analogy, yes. And the chapter goes on to describe other insensitivities that early scientists and modern doctors made. People with Down syndrome often did not live past the age of 10 years because they were discarded and left to die. That has all changed now because of parents like Emily and George, who set to challenge conventional thinking simply by making a choice. In the mid-19th century, French physician Edouard Seguin was the first to recognize the merits of early treatment and founded education and care for the disabled. Carson Goodwin wants to feel equal. Betsy Goodwin's obstetrician wanted her to have a normal baby and forget Carson by putting her in an institution. After consulting with a social worker friend, Betsy decided not to institutionalize her. Betsy realized the serious lack in resources for kids like Carson, so she founded her own organization for parents in similar situations, and the National Down Syndrome Society was born. The 1990s saw the integration of children with disabilities in public schools and changed America's classroom setting. Betsy found that Carson had difficulty adjusting to being in classrooms that were so unlike herself. She states, Carson recognizes her difference, but doesn't understand why. Discovering dancing connected her with others. She loves anything that makes her an equal. Children with Down syndrome experience loneliness when their peers were nowhere in sight. Inclusion education were recognized as a serious need in the Down syndrome community, but also the need for them to connect with others in their situation was of equal importance. In 1984, Ronald Reagan signed the Baby Doe Amendment, which would make it illegal to neglect or withhold treatment for disabled infants, and said that it was child abuse. Before then, it was legal to allow infants to die just because they were deemed hopeless. Just give me a second. The next story is that of Adam Deli Bovey's mom, Susan. She valued happiness and viewed it as a fluid concept, meaning it is a choice, and her belief connected her deeply with her son despite the challenges she faced. Susan Arnston recognized that, quote, expectations and pressures, unquote, were evident when she placed her son in a specialized school. It was clear that Adam wasn't doing as well socially as the other kids. He felt like he didn't fit in. His story is that of Down syndrome's deepest developmental struggles. He was slower than others to develop, and this prevented challenges to Susan she hadn't anticipated because of the heroic stories she'd encountered about other Down syndrome kids who had flourished and led productive lives. Her family pushed on, and he found belonging in things that gave him joy that he could share with his family, such as music and performance. Expectation and pressure to break through the challenges of the condition to be functional. The theme of this section is recognizing and accepting that you cannot change your situation, and finding and nurturing love and intimacy becomes the focus that creates a life well lived. Catherine's mother, Deirdre Featherstone, didn't want children, but ultimately found immense joy and growth in parenting. She found abnormality to be normal within the school Catherine attended. She discovered the nuclear family as a myth. Multiracial families are prevalent, and same-sex parents thrive. She recognized Catherine's unique traits only added to the beautiful diversity of the world. This section highlights the unique characteristics of Down syndrome that brightens and colors to the world. They are warm and affectionate and eager and sweet-natured people, and willing to help in all situations, marking their resilience. Diversity is a good thing, and it is more prevalent than people realize. People with Down syndrome add to the diversity of the world. David Robards' parents were told repeatedly by doctors that there is nothing that could be done. Tom and Karen resolved to, quote, love David just like any other baby. When people don't know what to say, we're going to tell them to congratulate us, unquote. They found a doctor that specialized in genetic defects, and they were encouraged to give David every possible form of stimulation. After failed attempts to get David involved in public and private schools due to bureaucracy, politics, and careful selection of defining what quote-unquote special needs means. This gave David's parents purpose, and they founded the Cook Foundation, which became the Cook Center, which is now the largest organization in New York City that focuses on education inclusion for disabled children. What would you do if you faced with the same choices? The main point of this section is to illustrate the tremendous amount of personal growth that parents experience from raising kids with disabilities. There are some overarching themes in each of the stories presented in the chapter, and they are the controversial issues of genetic testing to give parents the option of aborting or finding a cure. Down syndrome is very easy to detect during pregnancy through amniocentesis. What it isn't easy to determine is the severity. The chapter is also focused on bringing awareness to the advancement of science in the field of genetics that is surpassing integral opportunities to research and make headway for Down syndrome treatment and providing funding resources to those who wish to thrive despite their disability. So the questions I would have asked this class would have been, should Down syndrome be cured? What do you guys think? Discuss among yourselves. What is another theme that is revealed in this chapter? I personally think it is love and acceptance. In the following video, I think it sums up the core theme of enrichment and the love and devotion that the families and caregivers give to those in the need. It is about love and acceptance. Down syndrome is here to stay, and it may provide experiences that run the gamut from catastrophic to rewarding, or a blending of everything in between. What would you do? So I'm going to play this video, hopefully, if I can pull it up here. That's not going to work. Thank you. I appreciate your patience. Okay. My computer is archaic. It's going really, really slow. And of course, there's no sound. Let me go back.
L O V E LOVE. What that say? Love. Oh yeah, give me a hug. Ha ha ha.
It just about makes me cry every time. So, anyway, thank you. I appreciate you listening. Have a good day. Have a good summer. Bye.